Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this weekend. Well, what a week it has been. Holy banana bread. It's like we don't get sane weeks anymore. Stuff just keeps on happening. There's never a shortage of news. That's for sure. So we got some great news. This weekend though, I will say this is the first weekend that Trump hasn't come out and done something absolutely ridiculous on Saturday. So I I was able to get all of my news together by Friday, and I didn't have to add an extra article this week. So I will thank you for that. I will thank you for that. So yeah, it's another interesting week. We got a lot of stuff going on. Everything from we got a jobs report. We got we got new tariffs being announced. Are they as bad as they sound? We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Um, we got a story as well today on some of the on urban, like an urban town. There's a town that's going out of townhood, I guess we'll call it. We got a little bit of that. We got a little bit of everything, and as usual, of course, we got you guys. We got your questions. I hopefully I got answers. If I don't, I'll let you know. You guys do stump me from time to time. That's for sure. Because well, you guys are pretty crafty. You guys are definitely very very crafty. Before we get into our first news article, I do want to point out Thursday this week coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern, we've got the first episode ever of This Week Conversations. I'm going to be sitting down with 1 hour with Brandon Beavis. Brandon Beavis is going to join us. We're going to be talking about everything from ETFs to Blossom, you name it. It's going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic hour. So if you can make it, definitely come on by. I would love to see as many of you as possible. If you can't make it, it'll be available on the replay. So you'll definitely be able to do that. And if you got put your thinking caps on. If you got some good questions for Bieber, then Bieber. I just called him Bieber. Brandon Beavis. I think I just called him Justin Bieber. No, Justin Bieber's not on the show. Brandon Beavis. Brandon Beavis is who I'll be sitting down with. Oh my gosh. All right. I may be blushing a tiny bit because that was a good mistake. That was a really good mistake. Holy banana bread. So yeah, Brandon Beavis. If you got questions for Brandon Beavis, let me know ahead of time. Or during the show, you can get them up. I mean, depending on how busy the chat is, I'll try to get to as many as I can. Of course, that's what the supers are for. So if you during the show, if you got a question you want answered, I'm gonna take preference to supers. We'll get it done. It should be good. It should be good. I can't wait. Anyway, holy banana bread. Let's jump into our first news story, and then we'll. You know what, guys? That's not the first news story. Just give me a second here. Let's get to the real first news story. Obviously, you guys now know there is a story coming up that has to do with oil. So, hint, as a spoiler alert. What a day. What a day. So, Friday, we had our jobs report. Our jobs report dropped, and it kind of offered a small glimmer of hope. So the unemployment rate, it actually got a little better. Last month it was sitting at 7% last month. And when I say last month, guys, I'm actually talking May. So because this is the June data. So we were anticipating it to go up. Most analysts were pegging it at about 7.1. That's where they thought that it was going. Well, June had other ideas. June had actually dropped down to 6.9%. That's fantastic. I like it. So overall employment came in at, well, we got 83.1 thousand jobs, which guess what? That was also a bit of a surprise. And it was also the first net increase since January. So we had been analysts have been expecting about 10K. So 10,000 new jobs, 83.1. That absolutely blows that out of the way. May was actually pretty small. May, we only had 8.8 thousand new jobs. So that's kind of interesting. If we break that down a wee bit, so we actually added 13.5 thousand full-time jobs and a lot of part-time jobs, 69.5 thousand part-time jobs. That also, both of those came in higher than expected. So the jobs market looking pretty good. The only thing that came in lower than expected was wage increases. That came in a little bit lower. So it came in at 3.2%. We had been, we'd actually expected it to rise up to 3.5%. So what that does work out to is the average wage currently, at least in June, the average wage in Canada is sitting at $37.22 an hour. So this is our last jobs report before the next rate decision. So July 30th, the Bank of Canada is going to meet to decide on if they're going to change that rate. And the only other piece of data we have that is coming out before then, next week we have the CPI. So the CPI will come out to give us a bit of a picture of what inflation is looking like. So that will certainly come in. But currently, right now, most analysts are giving the chances of a rate cut at the end of July at about 30%. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good. It looks like we may have to wait to the fall to get another rate cut. Now, who did well? Some of the hot sectors. Some of the hot sectors for employment-wise were, well, wholesale and retail trade. Now, they added 33,600 jobs. Healthcare and social assistance also did pretty good. They added 16,700 jobs. So that was a pretty good bump in the month. If there was a big loser last month, it was agriculture. Agriculture, they were definitely a significant loser. They shed 6,000 jobs in June. So what can I say? All right, we got news story number one out of the way. Holy banana bread. Let's hit the chat. Let's get caught up with you guys. Jonathan in first, as usual. Am I late for a sale on US stocks? No, never too late. Never too late for a stock sale there. And if you miss one, there will be another one along the way. And this here, a little bit of conversation came out of this. I was just posting because around 3:30, we were getting some pretty intense thunder and lightning. Well, intense, I guess, is a relative term. I didn't see a lot of lightning, but I was hearing a lot of thunder, and the Weather Network was calling for a severe thunderstorm. So, given a bit of a warning, I don't want to jinx myself, but so far I've never lost power in any of these. But I always like to give you guys a heads up in case it happens. Well, actually, I shouldn't say I never lost power. A couple of summers ago, we had a DeRoche that came through here, and it kind of tore all of the power lines down, the major transmission lines, and we were without power for days. So yeah, there was that, but it wasn't while I was on the air. That would have been crazy. Oh boy, yeah, that was an interesting day for sure. All right, Brian is in the house. I'm not sure if Trump has said enough to tank the markets yet, Jonathan, but he still has his 2 a.m. tweet to mess up even his latest tariff damage. Here's the thing, and I've mentioned this before. I think I mentioned it on Wednesday on the market close. We're kind of getting used to the craziness coming out of Trump, to the point that he's like, oh, I'm going to throw a 50% tariff at this person, 100% tariff here, 200% here. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. We've heard this all before. And plus, then there's that whole taco thing. Trump always chickens out. He probably isn't going to chicken out of this one. But we may get a trade deal before then. We're going to talk more about that when we get deeper into the news. But he doesn't have that power. He's starting to lose it. The market's kind of like saying, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to do our own thing. And I did hear a rumor. I heard a rumor as well. I heard a rumor that that Papa Powell is thinking of resigning. Now, this is, guys, take this with a billion pounds of salt, because, well, the rumor source was Meet Kevin. So I always take anything I hear from Meet Kevin. I do take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes he likes to sensationalize things a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Now, if it does happen, oh boy, that could be interesting. That could be very interesting for the U.S. market for sure. All right, and Brian's mentioning that they had a light version of the storm in the western GTA this morning. It got worse as it went east of Toronto for sure. Yeah, and even here, most of this storm that came through, most of it kind of blew either to the north or the south of where I live in Ottawa. So, really didn't get the worst of it for sure. Cowboy is in the house with a greetings all. And Brian says, my daughter and I years ago used to go out looking at the thunderstorms and lightning. To this day, we still send each other screenshots of lightning on the weather app, on the weather bug app. Yeah. No, I used to have a friend who loved chasing storms, and we sometimes did that when we lived in Calgary. I sometimes went with him on an afternoon, and we would just be driving across the prairies chasing. We never caught any. We, it seriously never went very well for us. But we tried. It's like, look, there's rain off in the distance, and we'd be driving and driving, and by the time we got there, that rain would be gone. Yeah. Now, mind you, this was just before everybody had had a cell phone in their car and could figure out where things were going to be. But what can I say? Brian says, yes, I'm hearing it about to get bad in Montreal. Yeah, it should be getting close to Montreal about nowish. Because, like I said, the worst part of it was about 35 minutes ago. And Montreal's not that far away from Ottawa. Let's see, weather is like Trump, can't be controlled. You just deal with it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a really good analogy. I can't argue with that at all, cowboy. Um, and Brian says, I curse at the weather too. There we go. There we go. Bismarcky is in the house with a happy Sunday. King of Day. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. What time are you live with Brandon? I will be live at 4 p.m. Eastern. So that would be, well, it's 3 hours different if you're in Pacific. So that's what, 1 p.m.? Yeah, 1 p.m. Pacific. So yeah, I will, you know what I should do? On the Discord, as well as the Facebook group, I'll put up like a schedule and break down the time zones for you guys, just to make it a little bit easier for that one. Oh, I do want to mention, guys, if any of you are trying to join over on that Facebook, I've been getting a lot of people trying to get in there and scam you guys over on Facebook. So we instituted questions now. So now they have to answer skill testing questions. They're not hard. It's like, what's my catchphrase? And I'll take almost anything, like holy banana bread, not too shabby, Mr. Math. Heck, I'll even take this is going to be a good one. I'll take them all. But what I won't take, and I've been getting a lot of them are coming in and they're answering the questions. One of them, for some reason, seemed to think that I was a completely different Candace. They were making references to my conservative stuff that I do on online, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So there's been some really interesting. It's like they're guessing. They're absolutely guessing. They're coming up with some strange answers. So those guys, of course, are not making it into the group. So it's fun. I'm actually having kind of fun looking at. It was Candace Owens. That's who they thought I was for some reason. Like, what? What are you talking about? I anyway. All right. Doorpat says hi. Brian says, hey, Justin is Canadian. Maybe he can invest in Canada too and learn something here. Yeah, Bieber. I can't believe I made that Bieber mistake. Good thing, at least I didn't make that mistake on the poster. That would be very embarrassing then at that point. Let's see. What would be your pick for the highest dividend on the monthly payout? Oh boy. Well, I just did that video on HHIS. I am really liking HHIS, and it may not be the highest, but it's got a lot of diversification because it's holding a lot of those harvest high income stocks. And I like that little bit of extra diversification in there. So for high income ones, I think that's a really fantastic one. If you've not checked out that deep dive, guys, just do it. Do it after the show, though. Don't do it now. But we'll yeah. That would be, I think, yeah, definitely one of them. Now, those those new Hamilton ones are coming out soon. So I'm gonna look into them, and I'll probably get a video together fairly soon on them. That might even be Friday's video, because Tuesday's video, guys. Oh, you guys are gonna like this. Now, if you're a channel member, you'll be able to watch this tomorrow afternoon. But Tuesday's video, we're going to take a gander. We're going to take a little look in on all of those community favorites. So you guys know the ones that we've been talking about for years. And we're going to look at them, all 5 of them, plus a bonus one. So it's going to be fantastic. We're going to do that for, for Tuesday's video, or if you're a channel member, tomorrow. You can channel members get to see everything a day earlier. Oh, we got a late minute scratch. Or no, oh no, we got some name scratch. Hello from Quebec, big bull on oil industry here. Yeah, I'm very bullish on the oil and energy overall. Right now, yeah, it is an industry that has been down, but it's that industry that when it's down, you just keep stacking. You just keep stacking because it always comes back. And I think the next time it comes back, those of you who are, right now stocking up on things like XAG, Canadian Natural Resources, Torlamine, Imperial Oil, all of them, I think you're going to be very happy on the other side when oil gets to its next rebound, for sure. Brian says highest and safest are a fine balancing act for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Is Justin Bieber in the house? I still can't believe I said Justin Bieber. That's hilarious. I'm going to be laughing about that probably. I'll randomly sometime tonight just burst out laughing about that. I already know this. It's going to happen. Cowboy, I can't believe Stats can any more than... okay, you don't believe Stats Canada any more than CBC. All right, fair enough. I mean, I like data. But here's the thing. You can take data, and you can interpret it a lot of different ways. So that's one of those things like when I'm looking at data, I always want to know who's sponsoring it, who's paying for the study. And because to me, that's where you start to look for things like bias. And yeah, it can happen. You can take data and make it say completely 2 different things, depending on, how you want to spin the data, which data points you want to look at, which statistical analysis you want to do on it. So yeah, data, it can be finicky that way. So I'm going to give you that. Niece is in the house. High hopes. All have a great Sunday. Oh, it's always good to see you, Niece. Hope you're doing well today. Brian says, I'm curious how accurate the U.S. numbers are on anything. Trump said he would fire anyone with negative news on the U.S. Yeah. I mean, Trump is kind of like, he's decided what his truth is. And if you are disagreeing, or if you're bringing data that disagrees with it, then, yeah, you're kind of on the outs. It's not a good situation. It is not a good situation. But I don't know what to say. Inflation will skyrocket in the future. Yeah. Well, keep in mind, we haven't even seen any inflation. Really, not a lot of inflation has popped in yet from the tariffs. So we still have that. 16,000 more people on social assistance seems about right. That's not 16,000. That's a good question. I mean, I have to look at that data, but yeah, it seems like a lot of people. But boy, I would actually like to see what the roles look like right across the country. Now, mind you, there are a lot of people who are on social assistance for really good reasons. I think a lot of people who have disabilities are going to be in that list as well. And, depending on your disability, you may not be able to work. And that's fine. And I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay. I guess the area that I'm not okay with is if you have an able-bodied person who just wants to play video games in the basement, and they're like, I'll just get on social assistance so I don't have to go get a job. Well, that I have a little bit more of an issue with. But yeah, I'd love to see the actual numbers Rory says, hi, everyone. We'll be Germany in 1931. Sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it feels that way for sure. Better get some physical metal, Rory. Nothing wrong with physical metal. Nothing wrong with it. Um, and I mean, I'm okay with. Obviously, I invest in stocks. I invest in gold. I have some of my favorite stocks. I've got some gold stocks that I love. But yeah, that's not physical metal. Now, where somebody like Scratch is going to be better off is if Scratch is sitting on a whole pile of physical gold, and I've got a whole bunch of gold stocks, and something happens that we I lose access to power. Maybe Scratch is in a better position than I am at that point. Just something to think about because there are things that could happen. And we won't go down that rabbit hole at the moment, but there are definitely things that can happen. Brian says, what Trump doesn't have the power anymore. Oh no, he has no cards. Well, Trump thinks he has all the cards. He probably has cards up his sleeve, but good old iced coffee. But yeah, with 3.5 years, guys, and 3.5 years, it'll be fun. In 3.5 years, we might actually have a this week where we have a slow news week. Do you remember those? I think we've only actually had one since I've started doing this, where it was just like, guys, I got no news. Let's just talk. It happens. It does happens. Rory says my employer said I should have bought some gold. FOMO at this point. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, platinum and silver are still cheap. So yeah, that is another option as well. I know. I don't know if Jordan's here right now, but Jordan, who's in here regularly, he's been stacking the silver for a while. So let's see here. Rory says can't slam down an ounce of silver at the grocery store though. Not yet, but maybe in the future we'll have to see. Max R says, hey, all, been a while. Hope all are keeping hydrated in this heat. Got my iced coffee right here, right here. So good. Doorpat says, what do you think about the earnings coming out this week and the rest of July? I'm curious to see how these companies plan to absorb the tariff/eat costs. It will be interesting. I think a lot of the earnings going forward, I think are going to be very, very interesting. Now, I know this week, let me just pull this up. I got my earnings listed down below. There's not a lot of big ones in Canada. Up here, we've got Choice Properties. Now, somebody had asked me to do a deep dive on Choice Properties, and I almost did, but I was just like, I'm not. I try not to do a deep dive if they're having a earnings week, like within a week, because it sucks to do a deep dive based on their previous earnings. So, Choice Properties is coming out. Prairie Sky Royalty and Cogeco. Now, down in the U.S., though, holy banana bread. We got J.P. Morgan, Netflix, Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America, GE, Wells Fargo, Abbott Technology, Pepsi, Goldman Sachs. We got a lot. We got a lot. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. We'll have to see how it's all going to look for sure. All right. Rory says 22 Celsius here. Had a bit of rain. More coming later. I'm jealous. It's about, what is it here right now? I'll take a look. I thought it was like 38 or something, but it could be warmer. It could be warmer now. Let me take a look. Or it could be cooler. We just did have some thunder. Oh, what the banana bread? Yeah, it's down to 22 here. It's the same. 22 feels with a humididex of 28. Oh, I guess that thunder really broke it. I guess it broke the humidity. That's great. I love it. All right. Roku says, good afternoon, all. The rain is welcome in our neighborhood. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Let's see. Look out for Cardinal Energy with a 11% yield. Yeah, Cardinal Energy is another. It's a nice stock. It is a nice stock. Now, It is. I look at them as being mostly income, but I think they've got some potential there to have some big growth when oil rebounds. All right, Cowboy says picked up IPO. It's monthly at 09 per share. Seems like a good one. All right, and we'll skip ahead over here. I'm gonna skip past. When I start get to fall behind, guys, I start to jump over the conversations that you guys. If you put an at Cowboy or an at something, I will skip over some of those. Let's see. Scratch has got myself a new buddy. PEY is also a good one. So Peyton, yeah, they're also good as well. Rory says, I didn't hit the like button yet. Let's see if Mary is just watching, waiting to pounce. It's funny. I was looking on the streaming services the other day and I saw a show called Mary Kills People. I was like, that's kind of I just instantly said that's because they didn't hit the like button. But yeah, apparently it's on. I think it's on like CBC or something. I don't know where it is, but I just thought that was funny. Trump's cards, all jokers. Let's see. Trump is a few cards short of a full deck. Well, he's playing with a deck full of jokers, right? He's got a joker deck. So what can I say? Bismarcky says 3.5 years from now, Rosie O'Donnell will be president just to troll Trump. That would be kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things on the weekend. Trump has been sort of publicly musing about deporting Rosie O'Donnell. Now, I thought she was born in the U.S., but he has said he's got the power to strip people of their citizenship. I don't know. I don't think he does, but nobody seems to want to stop him. So we'll have to see how this goes. Scratch says, I like your channel. Much fun here. You have a new member. Oh, congratulations. Thanks. Well, that didn't make any sense. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's like I'm congratulating you for finding me. No, I appreciate that, Scratch. Brian says, apparently Trump was talking about deporting her, not sure where she was actually born. I thought Rosie O'Donnell was born in the States, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't have everybody's birthplace memorized, but I really thought she was. Anything about Air Canada stock? Thinking when to sell. Holy banana bread, Natoon. Holy banana bread. I was looking the other day because I got out of my my swing trade thinking, all right, well, I'm going to take advantage of this because it was almost up to 21. I'm thinking, yeah, let's get out of this. And lo and behold, it's still doing well. It's last time I looked, I think it was around 22. Let's take a look. I'm kind of curious now. All right, Air Canada. Let's see here, Air Canada. Yeah, look at this, 22.73. Holy banana bread. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pull back the 1 year. So, yeah, this is the thing. I got out somewheres in here. I wasn't expecting it to go back up. I thought we would get a retracement so that I could get back in again. But honestly, right now, if you're looking to get out, I would take some profits. I would think about taking some profits. You don't have to you don't have to, it's not an all or nothing. You can always take some profits and sit and see if it goes a little bit higher. But right now, yeah, it's pretty high. All right. Max says 39 in Kingston. Holy banana bread, Max. Yeah, that's pretty warm. I'm actually still surprised that it's saying, and I'm going to refresh this again here. Yeah, I can't believe it's 22 right now in Ottawa. That's fantastic. Although, I mean, the humididex is still 28, but that's pretty hot. Brian says 31 feels like 39 here. Rory says, are the weather channels in Ontario still using deep scorching red hot colors in their weather maps? Depends. I find like the Weather Network, I find they, depending on who's sponsoring them, you get some interesting colors. Like I know right now, looking here, I've got one red on their page, and that's just because of a heat warning. They got a heat warning. Well, here, you know what? Let me show you. Bring it on over. We'll jump in again. Here it is, right here. Here it is. So, yeah, they got this one little red. Now this is because it's the radar, right? I like to look at the radar because then I can make up my own mind what is coming. What is coming. So right now, as you can see, I'm currently under this green cloud here, but this is all of the thunder and lightning. It's already passed. And so right now it just looks pretty typical. But every so often though, they will get a sponsor that has bright colors and it will end up coming in on the background. So not always that fun. Anyway, we're not going to play around with the weather network too much here. What are your thoughts on SES? All right, SES. Let's jump back in here, and we will head on over. Let's pull up. Here we go. All right. So this here is secure waste infrastructure. All right. Now I do like waste companies. So things like GFL. They, to me, it's one of those things that we're not going to stop doing. We're not going to stop producing waste. Now, let's just take a gander at this here. And you can sort of see here. I mean, even just the 3 years. 3 years ago, they were sitting at $6. They've more than tripled that. Well, they've basically tripled that roughly. Because triple that would be what, 18? Yeah. So they've almost tripled that. Almost tripled that. Let's not over exaggerate, but they've done really, really, really well. Now, they do have a dividend. It's a 2.50% yield, 10-cent dividend. And I want to take a look here at something on their key data. Here we go. So their debt to equity ratio, 73%. So it's not too bad. Their return on equity, 16.22%. I like that as well. I think overall, definitely, I definitely like the company. And I think a lot of these waste companies, I think, are going to, they're to me, they're recession proof. Because once again, like I said, they're going to be, they're going to be needed. No matter what happens to the economy, we're not going to stop producing garbage and waste, everything. And with this one here, now let me just double check here. I can't remember if they deal with what type of waste they're actually looking at. Let's take a look here. Let's see, fluids and solid solutions for oil and gas. Oh, there we go. Now it's even more of a no-brainer. I'm pretty bullish overall on the energy system, especially support companies for energy, because even when oil goes down, a lot of times it doesn't impact these guys as much because they're still doing a lot of that stuff on the back end. Even though the oil companies may be making a little bit less money, they're still, these companies are still thriving. So I do like SES, Andrew. New York City. Yeah, because she has that New York accent, I guess. Interesting. Let's see. Cowboys. Says Trump would talk into a bucket to hear the echo. The man loves his own voice. Yep, absolutely. Rory says, I was going to ask Candace about using NA or Wealthsimple as my new broker, but I tend to stay away from where the crowds are going. All right, fair enough. I'll answer the question nonetheless. I do like both. So National Bank, that is your commission-free, Big Six. So they're a big bank. So if you like that safety of a big bank, you got National Bank. They are commission-free. You can also get free U.S. accounts in there. So if you want to hold U.S. dollars and you want to have U.S. stocks, they'll put that in. The one downside to National Bank is that they will have a charge if you're not holding $20,000, and they check once a year. At that point, if you do not have a balance of $20,000, there's a $100 service fee once a year. But if you're holding more than $20,000, don't even worry about it. I like their interface. I find it easy to use. I find it pretty intuitive. If you're doing any kind of trading, very agile. Now, Wealthsimple, once again, I think their Wealthsimple's app. So, their web app is not the best, but their app for phones and tablets, absolutely easy to use, pretty intuitive. You've also got fractional shares, which is great if you're wanting to get a piece of something bigger and you don't want to get a whole share. Also, you can you can do dripping there as well. So dividend reinvestment. Now, I will point out they don't have any discounts on dripping because you can find brokers. Now, I don't know about in Canada, but I have heard of some brokers. I believe they're American, where they can, you can get a little tiny bit of a discount if you're doing a drip with them. But yeah, you don't get that with Wealthsimple. But nonetheless, it is nice that with, you combine the fractional with the dripping, and you can sort of set things up and sort of set and forget if you really want to. So I do like both. I do like both quite a bit. But what I would say is, if you are doing any kind of fast trading, so if you're doing some intense, you know what? I'll leave swing trading off the board. If you're doing any kind of trading that borders closer to day trading, then National Bank is probably your best bet, hands down. Because but if you are just doing regular investing with the occasional swing trading type thing, Wealthsimple is pretty good for that. All right. I think I need a drink after that. And Danielle says, and this is what a lot of people were thinking. Hello, all. I was expecting more excitement last week in the market. I guess the market is used to Trump's roller coaster. Still waiting to sell my I am gold stocks. Maybe gold will increase. Okay. Yeah, I still feel pretty strong on gold. I think gold is going to do well. So that, I think you're safe. I'm glad that that's the stock that you are that you're waiting for. But yes, we did not get. Now I know we were looking at Wednesday and how everybody was expecting a big dip. They're like, oh, this is going to be it because all of those pauses on tariffs had expired. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Now, I thought we would get a dip. I did, and I said that we would probably get a dip, but nothing as big as what we got like on Liberation Day. Well, holy banana bread! The market decided to prove me completely wrong on that. There was no dip. There was no dip. It was pretty much business as usual, and it does. And what Danielle is saying here is true. We are kind of ignoring what Trump is saying now. We're just like, yeah, it's like we've heard this before. Let's not worry about it. All right. Scratch says gold miners didn't move compared to gold. I'm holding all miners at the moment. Yeah. I mean, it depends on the miners. There are some miners like I like London Gold. I love London Gold. And though I think that would be my favorite. But mind you, they've got a huge mine in Ecuador, and it's considered to be one of the top tier mines in the world. It is doing really, really well. But now, mind you, and this is kind of where diversification comes in. If London Gold was my only gold play, and let's say a giant meteor or something came out of the sky and hit that mine, though that stock would be toast. But that's what happens with black swan events, right? All right. We got Larry in the house. Let's see. Great week for my 3 to 5 year plays. Can we check out METC? Average $8 now, 1880, makes 500 million, no debt now. I love the no debt. Let's see, 900 million market cap. Reason to buy is 6 billion worth of rare earth on 2 million land. Buy only 1/4 surveyed. METC. Let's take a gander here. See, I might have to go over to Yahoo. No, I seem to have it. As long as I've got the data, I'm happy. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, this is this big pump that we've just had recently. So yeah, it has doubled. It has doubled in price. I am liking that now. They are profitable, so they are in the positive, half decent yield, 3%. Let's take a gander here. This is interesting. They do have a positive earnings per share, but yet they are showing a negative return on equity. So there might be something going on behind the scenes with that. Debt-wise, 35% debt to equity. That's not too shabby. And Larry has mentioned that he has done some of that research there. So yeah, they might definitely be someone to look at for sure. And let's see here. We have a little bit more information here from Larry. So they're a coal miner that got lucky and found this on cheap land purchase, one value. Yeah, and that'll do it. That'll do it. Now, keep in mind, coal, I know it's a dirty technology, but Donald Trump has been definitely promoting coal, and he wants a lot more coal stuff coming online over the next few years. So that's not a bad play. Not a bad play. Yeah, up over 120%. Copper, Danielle saying copper might be a good buy right now. Yeah, I've seen lots of stories lately. Copper theft is off the chain. So there's been a lot of people out there stealing copper from build sites, from power lines. Oh boy, that's how you get electrocuted. That's not a good thing. But that's because the price of copper has just been crazy. So yeah, copper I think is a very, very interesting play. And I'm just thinking here. I'm trying to remember here. Why do I always think? No, I was thinking. Uh, oh, I'm just going to type in copper here. I just want a copper stop here. U.S. copper. No, I want one here that is a little bit more expensive. Here it is, Mari. This is the one I was thinking of. I always type in Mara when I'm looking for Mari, but yeah, like let's take a look at this. Like, look at this. And this is just recently. Another, they've doubled. They have doubled recently. Because yeah, look at this. I mean, a year ago they were sitting just under $4. Now they're back up to 10. Now I want to back out a bit because they, okay, nope, this is even better than I thought. I was going to say maybe they had been up and they, retraced a bit, but now this is looking pretty good. Now this, when I do see this, I do think like if you're thinking of a company like this, if you were considering Mari, and I see something like this type of movement almost, sometimes it doesn't, but most times you'll get a bit of a correction coming after. So I would not buy at $10.01. If I wanted to get into Mari right now, I would probably hold off and see what happens because there's probably a good chance that you might be able to get in at between 7 and 8, depending on what happens here. But with that being said, one of the other things I would do is I would take a look, and right now I don't have any upcoming events on them, but I would look in the news cycle just to see if there's been any purchases, because sometimes something like this might be the result of, well, let's say you bought another company or you merged or something like that, because that could also help me determine whether or not that is going to retrace. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, copper has been off the chain. Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Andrew says, yeah, National Bank has awesome market research and technical analysis tool. Yeah, they have some pretty good tools. I like their tools. Absolutely. All right. Let's see. Trump is wanting tariffs on copper. Should be looking up. Yeah. So Trump has dropped 50% tariffs on copper. Oh boy. So we'll have to see how this is all going to. Well, one of the things I'm looking at is I want to see what type of deal we get coming out of this. It's going to be crazy. I think it's going to be crazy, but we'll have to see. The problem is, I know that the Canadian government, so Carney and crew, are trying to get rid of all of the tariffs. Trump does not like that. He is going to want something in there tariff-wise. So it'll be really, really, really interesting for sure. All right. Let's jump ahead. We got ourselves a super chat from Scratch, $10. Thank you very much, Scratch. Let's see. Got into TSX ORA last year, and I never looked back. They are not cheap anymore, but they are shareholders friendly. I think they will move away more since the BRD USD is breaking up the inside. So, ORA. Let's pull it up here again. I got to pull up the thing here. Give me a second. All right, there we go. All right. So ORA. Make sure I've got the right one here. Yeah, ORA. Here we are. So this here is Aura Minerals, and I'm going to pull up the last year. And this is beautiful. Look at this movement. Look at this movement. This is kind of what Scratch is talking about. I mean, this is a big up. This is a big swing to the upside. I'm liking it. Now, that's their 1 year. We can go to the 3 year, and you can see it's pretty much the same. So I like this. When you look at what they're doing here, So you'll notice that they are in the development and operation of gold and base metal projects in the Americas. So yeah, once again, so you've got copper, you've got silver. Some of these are some of the other minerals that this company is pulling up. So fantastic. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love what they're doing. Now, if we just go into their back end, let's take a look here. You could see right now they have a lot of debt. So 334% debt to equity ratio. That will normally scare me. That will normally scare me. However, with that being said, depending on, and this is where you want to, this is where due diligence really comes in. You want to look into the company, find out what the heck's going on. What are they using that debt for? Because that debt is obviously skewing their return on equity. Because look at this, negative 42.46%. That would, once again, that would scare me. Like, this is a company, I would look at this. Even though I loved everything else I saw, I would look at this and I would be like, uh-oh. So this would make me go and look a bit deeper. And I will. That's what I would do. I look a little bit deeper, find out what's going on. Now, if they're in an expansionary process, and a lot of times with mining companies, a lot of times they will be expanding over and over and getting things set up. And as production starts to roll out, that's when these numbers will start to turn around. So that's what I would be looking at before I decided, if this was something I wanted to look into. So yeah, the back end, I'm not happy with it, but the front end, holy banana breads, doesn't look too bad at all. Does not look too bad at all. All right, holy cow. Now I need to find where I was. I got distracted by the super chat, but that's what we call a good distraction. All right, here we go. Now, Rory says, I'm still with TD Direct in my one account. I might stay there even though it's $9.99 commissions. Yeah, that's the thing. Now, here's the thing, though. If you're in something like TD Direct, if you're not making frequent purchases, if it's more or less like, you're kind of setting and forgetting, at least you're not getting hit by that a lot. But if you are making a lot of purchases, if you're nickel and diming it, if you're somebody who puts in a deposit every single month and is buying, then that $9.99 starts to add up. And it's pretty bad. Like if you buy something, it's like, you got to wait for it to make $10. Well, maybe not $10, depending on how many you bought, but you got to wait for that investment to make $10 before you break even. That I don't like so much, but nonetheless, I mean, if it works for you and you're not making a lot of investments, like more or less, if you're like, dropping some money there and it's going to sit there for 10, 15 years, well, fine. You're probably okay. Now, here's the other thing. I do not know with TD Direct, are they charging? Now, Rory, you might know this. Are they charging you $9.99 if you're buying ETFs? So I know, like, for example, with iTrade over at Scotiabank, they will let you buy ETFs without a commission. So, is there a difference with TD Direct? I've never used them, so I don't actually know. Brian says, I started all my investments at TD. I love to take them all out and move them to a no fees account. Yeah, absolutely. And National Bank, yeah, Scratch is 100% right. National Bank is free of fee. And it is relatively easy to move from, any of these. The only thing I will say is that sometimes you'll have some things in your account. So if you're planning to move an account, so let's say you're sitting at TD, what I will usually recommend, and that to save you a lot of time, is if you've got any kind of GICs or anything like that in your account that is specific to TD, I would probably liquidate that. Don't take it, like if you liquidate it in your TFSA, don't take it out of your TFSA. Just leave that cash there and they'll move that cash. And then you can, if you're going to move that into different ETFs or, or whatever you're going to move it into, you can do that once you get over to National Bank. It makes the process go a little bit easier. Now, some will move over, though. I will point out, I know recently I helped somebody with RBC, and they had a few RBC accounts, ETFs that they were actually mutual funds, so high fees on them. But they went through the whole process, and some of those did move over, but some of them took a little bit of extra time to move as well. And a couple didn't, and then they had to, at that point, sell them and move the cash over. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Rare earth minerals. Yes, I love rare earth minerals. It's one of those things. We've got a lot of them in Canada. And as long as the government keeps moving, we can start processing some of these sooner than later. The US is going to need a lot of them. And I have a feeling once we get past all of these trade difficulties, we could be set up to sell to them and, well, the rest of the world too. So that's the big difference. The only difference, like, people are always talking about China. The only difference between China and us is that China's just developed everything. We haven't, but China has. So yeah, it's 100%. We should be an economic superpower. I want to see a lot of these minerals coming out of the ground. All right, Brian says still going to look into the RIFF process before I do anything. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see here. Rory, with TD, I've had very nice entries on where I wanted to get in. There we go. And and that's the thing. If you have those very nice entries, and if these are in accounts that are not in your TFSA, sometimes if you sell it, then you're looking at creating some capital gains. Now, if you move it though, it should keep that, your adjusted cost base isn't going to change. So you're not going to generate a capital gain and when you move it, but just something to keep in mind. All right, let's see here. MP Materials got me happy on Thursday. Interesting. What are your thoughts on MMY.V and Thor? Thor, my favorite Avenger. No, he's not. So MMY, let's take a gander. Let's take a gander here. I'll bring up the page. Here we go. MMY, so Monument Mining. All right. So once again, it's a penny stock. So as you know, I am always a little bit hesitant on penny stocks because, well, a lot of times when markets get bad, penny stocks tend to be the ones that if you're gonna have a high failure rate, it's gonna be with penny stocks. Now that does not mean all of them though. So let's just take a look at this one. This has been, they're moving in the right direction. Look at this. They have gone from 14 cents. They got up. Well, heck, they got up to 50 cents at one point. So they're moving in the right direction. That's fantastic. Now, I do like this. I'm looking at an EPS of 0.08. That's fantastic. Let's take a look at their debt though. That's always important. Now, I expect normally, look at this. They got no debt. So that's fantastic right there. Return on equity, 15.31. And the return on assets also, it's very rare when the return on assets is a little higher than the return on equity, but it is in this case. So I like the back end. I like what I'm seeing. I'm still always a little bit cautious because it is a penny stock. But nonetheless, as I said, if you're going to pick a penny stock, if you're going to invest in penny stocks, these are the fundamentals I want to see. I want to see that low debt. I want to see that they're profitable, and that's what we are getting here. So that's not too shabby, at all. All right, Nis says, I am not familiar with the laws you have for banks. Here in Sweden, they are regulated. Are Canadian banks worth to invest in still? Okay. Canadian banking system is highly regulated. Highly. Now, the banks in Canada, they're pretty much based off of, if you were to look into Scottish banking. So, because a lot of the Scottish banking system, when the New World was settled, they brought a lot of that to Canada. So we have a very regulated, in fact, with our big banks, I don't want to say they can't fail, but it is very hard for them to fail with that regulation. So yeah, I do like it. There's a good resilience in that Canadian banking sector. I think it's a strong sector. So I would say Canadian banks are definitely good. I would also, just stepping outside of Canada, I would also say the same thing with the Australian banking system. It's very similar. So I think they're both really, really good. So if you're thinking about investing in Canadian banks, I don't think you have a lot of concerns there. When you compare Canadian banks to American banks, it's night and day. There's a lot more regulation. I think there's a lot more resilience. Now, keep in mind, with American banks, if you look at the big American banks, you're probably fine. You're more than likely fine. Usually with America, you get into problems when you get into some of the more regional banks. Some of the regional banks are not too big to fail, as we saw in the last couple of years. All right. And here's Brian saying Canadian banks are extremely safe. The big banks, if the banks go down, don't worry about it. The world will be in a depression. Um, yeah, they'll come back if they do. But right now, I mean, even if we look at what's going on with the pandemic, so with the pandemic, we had interest rates going really, 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 really low. So we had a crisis. Well, we have a crisis. It's kind of ongoing, where a lot of people couldn't really, who really shouldn't have been getting mortgages, were picking up mortgages like crazy. So a lot of sub 2 and sub 3% mortgages. Now, the one problem is that in Canada, you can't, your mortgages renew a lot sooner. That you don't get like these 20-year mortgages like you would find in the United States. So, you're getting, people signing up for 3 to 5 years. We're now at that point where a lot of these mortgages are getting renewed because time is up. And a lot of these people who could not pass a stress test today, mind you, part of our regulatory body for the banks, they didn't make the stress tests harder to try to keep the banks from getting into any further trouble with this. So a lot of these people, they're all of a sudden having to renew mortgages at much higher rates, and a lot of them can't afford it. So we are seeing a spike in things like foreclosures. The banks are doing everything they can, like extending amortizations and things like that, everything they can to help, because they don't want to be foreclosing on a whole bunch of houses. They're doing everything they can to try to prevent it. But the point is, considering how bad it could get, the banks have done really well. They have put aside loan loss provisioning enough that they're fine. They're still going up, even while they're dealing with a record wave of renewals, record waves of people defaulting on loans, and people are defaulting on a lot of things. But they're doing really, really well, and plus they're preparing for the tariffs now. So I do love our banking system, and I would give them, I would give them top marks for sure. All right. Larry says BHP is the king of copper miner, owns 90% of the mines. Only problem is that they're an Australian company, which is a far left country, so high taxes. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm not a big fan of taxes, so I get you there. Owns 90% of the mines in the entire world. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot. All right. Is it true that Australia wants to build an inland sea in the middle of the outback? I don't know if it's true or not, but I will say I saw somebody's thumbnail on YouTube where they said they wanted to. I did not watch the video. I don't know. I'm very skeptical on it. I'm very, very skeptical. Just the engineering of pulling that off would be pretty crazy. So I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true. But then again, I've seen crazier things in the world lately, but I would say that it's probably suspect. Probably suspect. All right. Andrew says national banks research tools are better than TD, more user-friendly. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. TD charges you fees. So King of Day is confirming. So TD charges you fees for everything except for mutual funds. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Let's see. Yeah, I hope TD comes around and lowers the fees. It's my TFSA account, not a cash trading account I have with TD. Okay. Fair enough. Brian says, I bought shares in Utes last month at TD. Yes, $9.99 fee. Oh, I like that ETF, but I don't like that fee. I do not like that fee for sure. Be careful if you move out of National Bank with their low amount charges. I moved my account, then received a dovey and got hit with a $100 charge. Oh, interesting. Probably that service charge, Andrew. I'm thinking because if you drop your balance below 20,000, they'll hit you with $100 a year in a charge there. Yeah, Avenger. Gotta love the Avengers. All right. Let's see. I am liking Utes. We'll be adding more to that one. Perfect. Ofer says, I think a lot of international investors like me are going to bring their business from the US to Canada because of all the fuss and the USD becoming a paperweight fast. You know what, Ofer? I think you're right. I think you're right. I will say that I have seen, because I've been running this channel now for more than 3 years, and the number of non-Canadians that are coming into like the chats, commenting on videos, things like that, they've been going up. They have absolutely been going up. And I usually get a couple. I have two different types. This is kind of funny. I'll use America as the example, but I have two different types of Americans that come in here. One is the American who wants to know about Canadian stocks, the Canadian market. Obviously, they're probably looking at different Canadian investments. So that's the one type of American I get. I will get this other type. Now the second type doesn't come so much into the chat, but I get a lot of comments where they're like, "Yeah, these are Canadian. We're the American ones." that's the second type I get. I had one actually just recently. I did an income ETF one, and I had one American in the comments was just like, yeah, I can't buy these in America. Where can you do the American ones?" So I get that, and that's kind of cool. And I do every so often I do try to do some American content, but I will mention my viewership when I do, like if I do let's say income ETFs, if I do that video Canadian ETFs, let's just say it gets 5,000 views. If I then went and did the exact same video but with American ETFs, I'm probably hoping that I get to 1,000 views. So there is a little bit of a difference, but at the same time, I do still like to sneak in some of that American content because, I think global diversification is really important. So, I do try to sneak it in anyway. All right, Burgers says, I got burnt on a penny stock. Now I won't even touch them. Yeah, and that happens. So that's why I always say, like, if you're going to play with the penny stocks, don't bet the farm. Don't bet the farm. Like, just consider them. I've always, a lot of people will argue and say, investing is gambling. It really, well, it isn't. It isn't if you play it right. If you come in educated, know what you're doing, it's fine. But when you look at penny stocks, yeah, you can make that argument. You can make that argument for sure. So I always say be careful. Don't invest more than you're willing to lose when it comes to penny stocks. For sure. Absolutely. Okay, Rory. So Aerotine Industries backyard shed investments. There we go. All right. Scratch says Canadian dollar will outperform USD in the next years for long-term investors, the real and the rand too. Yeah. I mean, the Canadian dollar, we expected it to go down. Tariffs was supposed to do a lot of bad things to Canada. And so far, we haven't seen a lot of it. Now, mind you, yes, it does take time to filter into the system and everything. But you got to look at the fact that the US dollar is tanking too, and tanking faster. So it could be interesting. Somebody did mention the other day that, I'd like to see the Canadian dollar at par. Now, normally we don't like to see that in Canada because it makes Americans not want to buy stuff from Canada as much. But with these tariffs doing that for us already, it may not be as bad a thing as we think. So we'll have to see. We're gonna have to see. And I mentioned that Meet Kevin was talking about a rumor that Papa Powell is thinking about stepping down. If that happens and Trump gets somebody in there who will follow does what he wants and just absolutely slashes interest rates in the United States, oh boy, it could be very interesting for sure. All right. Brian says, I had my fair share of looking for a get rich quick penny stock. Never again. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Learning fees. There you go. Absolutely. All right. Let's jump ahead a little bit here. Let's see. Bought ACT as a penny stock, sold at $6.50. Now it's $15.85. That 2020 hindsight. Yeah, it is. But you know what? Here's the thing. If you bought a penny stock and you sold it at a half decent, if you got a profit out of it, maybe it explodes, but maybe it doesn't. That's the thing. It happens. So it's kind of one of those things. I like to call it 50-50. It sort of reminds me of, I used to work for Compaq. So Compaq computers, if you remember those, they got bought up by HP. But we used to have this one model called the 50-50. I think it was a Compaq Presario model 50-50. And oh boy, the joking that model used to get. I was in tech support at the time, and I used to get calls, and somebody would be like, "Yeah, I got the 50-50. Perfect name. 50% chance it works every time I turn it on. I never know." I was like, we used to get that all the time. So anyway, let's see. I made dough in 2021. Nice. You gotta like that. Yes, so many should have, could haves. There's always going to be that, and you can't beat yourself up over profits that you could have had, because it's gonna happen again and again. You miss a moonshot, you take the next one. That's the way I look at it. All right. Ofer says, I own Utes. So that's a utility one from Evolve. So HYLD, DGS. And I live on the side of the planet. Nothing wrong with living on the side of the planet. But yeah, those are some pretty good stocks. HYLD, definitely a favorite. And Utes has been doing really well. Let's see. Canadian ETFs often use 25% leverage, which the US ones usually don't, which is a plus for the Maple Leaf. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is a newer trend, by the way, Ofer. So if you were to look at our ETFs, even back at the pandemic, there weren't a lot of leverage. A lot of them weren't using leverage. And then, HYLD was one of the ones that came in first. And they started, HYLD was interesting. When Hamilton came up with HYLD, first of all, it was an ETF holding ETFs. Fantastic. And then they threw 25% leverage on it just to really pump things up a bit. Now, you look at most of these ETFs, like when you come out with any fund, you'll normally almost get two flavors. So look at, for example, ENCC and ENCL. That's an energy one. The ENCC is just straight covered calls, and the ENCL covered calls plus that 25% leverage. So leverage is getting to be used a lot more for sure. So yeah, absolutely. Let's see. The U.S. are also doing it some as well, and they will. The U.S. I find lags behind Canada. They sort of look at our ETFs and they're like, "Oh, look at what they're doing. Let's follow us." Now, I will say, when you look at something like Yield Max in the U.S., they're using synthetic covered calls, so that's something that we aren't using yet. But it happens. It happens. Ian is in the house. Holy banana bread. I actually made it to a live stream. Well, welcome, Ian. It's always good to see you. How are you? How are you doing? All right. Ofer says the USD lost 10% of its value against my local currency year to date. Oh, boy. Yeah, that's... and you know what? With Trump just storming ahead, adding debt upon... Well, I mean... I think the last I heard, it was close to $3 trillion that the big beautiful bill is gonna create. So, yeah, he's showing us. He's definitely showing us how to devalue a dollar in 3 years. All right, Brian says, Ian, have a nice day, everyone. It's been a nice stream. See you later in the week. Take care, Brian. We'll. Oh, never mind. You're still here, just being okay. Fine. All right. Let's take a look here. Larry says, funny thing about US devaluation is my fund and corp have been buying foreign dividend payers to make up for the dollar loss, since other currencies will increase value in the future. Yeah, absolutely. Well, even now, when you look at, if you look at Bitcoin hit some all-time highs, absolutely exploded this week. I think they got to about 118,000, but it's not so much that Bitcoin got there. A lot of it is that because it's priced in the USD. So as the US dollar falls down, it inflates that price on Bitcoin. But nonetheless, it is nice to see. I predicted I predicted the high. The high would be about 120,000, and I think in the fall I predicted that. I still think we're going to get there. I think it's going to beat it. I think it will beat it at this point, but that's fine. There's just things I don't mind being wrong with is calling a top price and having it break through it. I'm always okay with that. All right. Anyone looking at the silver chart tonight? Well, let's take a look. Why not? I got silver over here. Here we go. Look at this. Like this here is just the movement here. Look at this. This is from July 10th. So Thursday. Look at this movement in silver. It's gone from 36 up to 38. So yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm liking that. I'm liking that for sure. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Sold because no dividends. Let's see. Does anyone ever ride the rocket to the moon? It's like the lotto. Only if you do it. GameStop guy. It's relative, right? I always look at it this way. Anytime you're, something really explodes, like technically with, let's go back there again. I mean, technically, this is a bit of a moonshot. You can argue, you can say, yeah, that was my moonshot. Why not? I mean, it is relative. If you invested in Bitcoin just a couple of years ago, down when it was, when it was down around 20K, and you're now sitting here at, oh boy, look at this. Once again, like look at this, 118,963. We're really, really close. Like, look at that. We actually got up to 119. So pretty much we're on the doorstep of 120K. That's that would be a huge moon run. I mean, I don't think you can beat that. I don't think you can beat that at all. All right, Oprah says the guy from WiMAX mentioned yesterday he wants to do a HHIS. Yeah, HHIS. I actually just did a video. Actually, the video that dropped on Friday was a deep dive into HHIS. So this, of course, is one of the Harvest high income shares. So they've got a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of different companies. So, for example, Nvidia, Microsoft, Eli Lilly, Apple. They got a whole bunch. And what HHIS does is it takes all of them, pulls them all together. It takes the leveraged version too, because each of these ones, like for example, for Nvidia, we got a regular version. We also got a leveraged version. Well, the regular version does have covered calls, but then the leveraged version has covered calls and leverage, and they're taking all of the leveraged version. So yeah, and it gives you, it gives you a little bit of diversification. Now it is kind of tech heavy, absolutely, but it's absolutely been doing really well. We're looking at 25-cent dividend, so it's not too shabby. I am liking it. I think it has that potential to be one of these really good ones if you've got an income portfolio. I think it's a good fit for most income investors. All right. Hey Candace, your favorite dumpster fire, AQN seems to be stabilizing. Any thoughts? I thought that it probably could. Like I did do another video on AQN recently. Now, let me pull this up here. Oops. Yeah. Oh yeah. I went oops because I was like, do I even have my screen up? And I do. AQN. Let's actually go AQN. Here we go. So yeah, here's Algonquin. Now, Algonquin is kind of this interesting story. So they've made a lot of mistakes in the past. And they used to be a company. Like back around the time of the pandemic, a lot of people were singing the praises of Algonquin because they were a great dividend payer. They were doing fantastic. And let's actually let's pull it to 10 years. All right. Here we go. And right over here, you can sort of see, where is it? Right here. Here is the, this little slice right down here. That's the pandemic right in there. But yeah, even after the pandemic, they did fine. But then, oh boy, this mess here happened. And here's the funny thing, Algonquin. So a lot of the utility side of their business, a lot of them are highly regulated American utilities. So that generally will bring a lot of stability. But in this case, it didn't work out that way. They did a lot. Management absolutely threw crud at the fan and let it go where it wanted to. They it was mismanaged. It was mismanaged. A lot of badness. And of course, at one point, they changed their dividend structure. That caused even more of a mess. And yeah, they have been down. And right now, I mean, if you look, I'm going to pull the 15 year. So if you look at their low here, so when they got down to 629, the last time they were that low was in 2013. So yeah, it's one of these ones that for the longest time I was watching them like they just need to, and they started to make some better moves. They did start to make some better moves down in here. And then of course, we had a few other things that happened, everything from Trump and tariffs and everything. But I think they're a good buy. I hate to say this. I do think that I don't see them going below this 629 any further. I think they focused more on the utility side of their business. They have sold off some assets to take care of some of the debt. They're starting to move in the right direction. Their management team is starting to actually look like they know what they're doing. That I think is good. So I think Algonquin, if you're one of these people who bought somewheres in here and you're sitting on a bunch of red Algonquin, I wouldn't sell. I wouldn't sell if I was in that situation right now because I think they're going to come back. Will they come back up to $17? Probably unrealistic at this point in time. But I see $10 to $11 as being a realistic target within the next maybe even year, depending on what happens with what happens. But yeah, I would say $10, 10, maybe even 11. I think that's reasonable, but it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. You got to have a little bit of patience, but I don't think they're going any lower. So yeah, I do like Algonquin. I'm starting to like them a bit more. I almost should, you know what? I should add them to the challenge at this point because I do feel like they can't go any lower. But I have been burnt before thinking that, like Bell. If you guys remember Bell, every time I thought Bell was at the bottom, they went out and bought a new shovel, and they found ways to get lower. But what can I say? Bell actually made some good moves as well. Cutting their dividend, that was huge. I think that will help Bell quite a bit. All right. Let's see. Didn't even realize ETC was 119 now. Gotta love that. Harold says, nice to see dividend has raised their dividend 10% or so. Yes, absolutely. So diversified royalty. I love this stock. I consider it a community favorite. They've had this reliable little dividend for the longest time. And now they have raised it because not only that, they bought more royalties. So they bought some royalties on Chuba Hut. That's what it's called. It's actually they make roasted subways, like submarine sandwiches things. That's what they do, and I don't know how this works, but apparently there's some kind of a cannabis connection. I don't know what that is, but they've got a deal. They bought it, and then they basically said, "Okay, do your thing and just pay us our royalties." So yeah, they've got a whole bunch of cash flow coming from that now. That has helped them. It helped them raise the dividend. It also boosted them up quite a bit. Like, yeah, let's take a look here. DIV. Right here. All right. So this is the closest to a penny stock that I like. I will put it out there. I'm going to come back to 10 years here just to sort of see. So yeah, you can sort of see pandemic. But, they normally used to hang around, like the reasonable price for them is between $2.80 and $3. But now, like they're well above that now. They're up at 331. I feel confident that they can hold that now that they've got this extra inflush of cash. And they own quite a few royalties. And that's one of the nice things about royalty companies, right? Is you get this cash flow going and you really don't have to do any of the work. It's kind of like, I don't want to say free money, but it's just the way the system works. So I do like it. All right. Ofer says, if you have any connections with Harvest, Evolve, etc., please ask them why no income funds in European indexes. Thanks. I do have a connection with Evolve. They have sponsored a few videos. So they have, yeah, I guess they don't have it in any of the individual indexes. Probably the closest is EBNK. They invest in a whole bunch of the European banks, but that would be the closest I think that Evolve has. But yeah, I'm not sure so much about the other ones, but we do have that. All right, guys. Oh, Mary's in the house. We have not talked about the like button. Well, we did earlier. We had that little funny thing I mentioned about the like button, but Mary is here. She is our official captain of the like button. So guys, you got to hit that like button. Mm. Oh, I love it. I love it. Whenever Mary comes in, I always get to have a sip of coffee too. Scratch says silver is breaking a 47 years cup and handle. We might witness the biggest chart ever. Yeah, so cup and handle, guys, if you're unfamiliar with that, it's a pattern. It's used in technical analysis. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. Sometimes when I look at patterns, whether it be a cup and handle or whether it be a flag or things like that on really long time scales, I get a little bit, I take those with a grain of salt a little bit. Not to say that they won't come through. I think silver has a bright future this year. I think every precious metal is going to be doing well. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium. I think there's going to be good. Also, of course, if you want to go into something that glows, uranium is another. It's not a precious metal. It's more, well, it is precious, but you can't exactly hold physical uranium at your house, not without getting a few people coming by to check it out. That's for sure. All right, Mark is in the house. Hey, Mark, good to see you again. Hey, Candace, thinking of swapping out UMAX for Utes. Ironically, you recommended to me to use Utes, but I didn't. Should have. You were right. It's 15% of my non-registered, about 77,000. Yeah, no, I do love Utes. So it is one of those things. I mean, there's nothing saying you can't hold both, but I do. If I had to choose between the two, I would lean, I think, towards Utes for sure. All right. Let's see. On. All right. Vic is in the house, late but here, and hit the like button. Awesome. Well, you haven't missed any of the news. It's been so busy, I haven't had a chance to even do the news. Holy banana. Well, we did one story so far. I'm going to, as soon as I may not even be able to catch up. I might have to just sort of stop here in a moment and get a news story done just to get it done. Ian says, Div raised their dividend right on. Got a bit of them. Yes, they did. Let me show you. Let's pull it back up. Here we go. So their old dividend was 2.1 cents per share. It's now 2.3 cents per share. So yeah, we have got a little bit of a dividend hike. Not too shabby, that's for sure. Vic says TD was in the 70s, but now over 100. Yeah, TD has done well. TD has done well. Now, we had the laundering stuff and all of that stuff going on down in a Florida bank. And they've taken a hit for that. They have. It has hurt their American expansion. Absolutely. But they did the smart thing. They owned up to it. They put in place the changes that needed to be made so it wouldn't happen again. And as well, they've changed up their management team quite a bit. So I think TD's moving in the right direction. I think they're going to be fine. All right, let's see. Get the munchies, buy a sub. There we go. TD did nothing wrong. All right. Vic says, shoulda, coulda loaded up, but it didn't. But I didn't. Yeah, story of my. You know what? You miss one, you catch the next. Not too late, maybe. That's always a possibility. Oprah says, thank you for answering all of my questions. I try my darndest. Now, guys, and I've mentioned this before, as we get busier, the only way you can guarantee that I'm going to answer your question is going to be a super. We're not quite there yet. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. I still try. I will still try, even though it's put me far behind today. I'm really far behind. Let's see. My grade 5 love. Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. The German DAX has been outperforming everything North American in the past year. Shame no covered call funds on it. I would agree. I'll agree with you, Ofer. I will point one thing out, though. And maybe this is part of that hesitation. Like when we do look at some of the funds, like that go into, like, for example, there's there's an India ETF. That banking one I mentioned, they just don't get a lot of volume. So people are still, I think a lot of Canadians are still kind of like stuck on Canada and the US, but I would love to see that change because I think there are great opportunities in a lot of exchanges. And I think the German exchange, the DAX, I think that's exciting. I think that's exciting. Absolutely. And Chad is just like BTC at the moment. Is exploding again. We looked at it a little while ago. Yeah, 119 right now, $119.50. Holy banana bread. Holy banana bread. Rory, unobtainium. Got lots of that. You got that's hard to get, that unobtainium. Unobtainium. There we go. Has anyone picked up any Pfizer shares? Or Pfizer, sorry. Pfizer shares. There we go. SCR might have a $10 special dividend since the trade with the Meg Energy you avoid. Yeah, there's kind of interesting things. So right now, the last company I know about some special shares is special dividend, London Gold. Last month, they had a little bit of extra money for the London Gold people. If you're holding them, that was absolutely cool. They allowed themselves to be extorted. Let's see, silver paper to physical is 409 to 1. Rather own the physical. There you go. You'll like Scratch. Scratch also very, very much physical. There we go. Yeah, physical all the way. All right. Oh my God, I think I've almost caught up. King of Day says, sold out of TD completely with a little profit. Don't trust the management after the money laundering. Always hold the real asset. And HBB, holy banana bread. There we go. I like it. I like it. All right. We can actually move to the second story. We can we can do it. So here's the tariff man to the south as he's flying around throwing tariffs at everyone. What can I say? What can I say? Oh boy. So yeah, Donald Trump, of course, did it again with a new Truth Social post to announce 35% tariff on Canada. And he's calling it, and this is interesting, he's calling it an escalation from the current 25% fentanyl tariffs. Now, as you guys know, the amount of fentanyl crossing the Canadian border into the US is so small, it's almost not even worth mentioning. So yeah, it's just his excuse. It's his excuse. So this tariff is set to begin on August 1st, which of course, well, it certainly ups that pressure to get a trade deal done by that deadline. Well, initially the deadline was July 21st, but Carney has basically said, well, if he's not hitting us until August 1st, I guess I got a little bit more time to hammer out a deal. So we'll have to see how that goes. And of course, Trump is justifying this tariff by, well, once again, fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration of folks coming down through the Canadian border. I guess we get a lot of people lining up just to get into the States here. I haven't seen them, but apparently they're there. He's also doubling down on our unfair dairy tariffs. So those 400%, and it's not 400%. And he also said that the U.S. trade deficit is also really big. Now, the dairy tariffs that we have, there's nothing we can do about that. The Bloc Québécois got a bill passed recently that basically removes them from the bargaining table. Now, the way the Canadian tariffs work is that they gotta buy, they gotta import, or we have to import a whole bunch of American dairy before they'll even trigger. And in fact, they've never triggered. They've never triggered. So, for the most part, there's really not a tariff on dairy at all, other than if somebody went crazy and tried to import a whole ton of it. But it's just not going to happen. So anyway, so he, of course, then added that these tariffs, they can slide up or down. I guess it's like a kid's ride at the park or something. But it's based on Canada's cooperation. He also added that they will go up dollar for dollar if we retaliate. So any retaliation from Canada, dollar for dollar, he's going to add it to these tariffs. Now, they're not as bad as it sounds. They're actually not as bad as it sounds. So Scotiabank has estimated that 80 to 90% of all of our exports into the US, well, they can be USMCA compliant. They're not all there yet, but a couple of tweaks and we can get them there. If they are USMCA client, there are no tariffs on them. There's no tariffs on the USMCA compliant things. So if you average out the tariffs that the US is hitting us as 35%, when all is said and done, it actually works out to about 4 to 7% on average across the board. So it's not as bad as it sounds. It sounds a lot worse when you hear that 35%, but when you look at the fact that most stuff is exempt because of that the free trade agreement, it's really not that bad. But they and I don't want to say but at this moment, but I will say that U.S. government has said, they have come out and said that they are not planning to break any of the USMCA exemptions. So they're planning to keep them in place. That's good. So with all of that being said, we still got, these are all of the tariffs that we should have as of August 1st. I'm not 100% sure about the pharmaceuticals, if that's starting August 1st as well. But right now we're looking at 50% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper, 25% tariffs on automobiles and auto parts, and 200% on pharmaceuticals. So I don't know how many pharmaceuticals we actually export to the United States, but from what I've heard, drugs are cheaper in Canada anyway. So we'll have to see how that all goes. Obviously, we want to see what the government can pull up when it comes to that trade deal, all of that fun stuff. What can I say? Oh boy. Back to the chat here. Ofer says the new German chancellor was a senior executive in BlackRock. He knows how to move markets. You gotta love that. I do love politicians who have that level of exposure to how the markets work, because they tend to take things a little bit in more of a marketing type of stride, and that tends to be good for the markets for sure. Burgers, longest Sunday session on record. Oh boy. Let's see. Is it? Gene says, is it still time to buy gold? I would say so. I think gold is still got. There's still more runway for gold. I think we're going to see a lot more movement in gold. So I wouldn't sell it right now for sure. And Chad's saying it's always time to buy gold. And Scratch is bringing in platinum and silver. Play the ratios. Yeah, absolutely. Gold is not the only player in town as well. Roy says, let's just build a wall across Canada. Why not? We'll build a wall and we'll make Trump pay for it somehow. He probably wouldn't. He would bankrupt the wall. Chad says, bought gold back in 2004, was laughed at, paid $401 per ounce. Who's laughing now? Yeah. Gold is, what is it right now? $3,355.37 an ounce. So what can I say? Let's see. Redwater says Carney cut funding for international students, so they are heading south. I've got a story about international students coming up here, Redwater. So yeah, let's put that on the back burner for a second, but we're going to talk about them here in a moment or so. Let's see. You can get 1/2 ratio with platinum over gold, and you can get 5 to 6 ounce platinum for your gold in the coming years. Buy and hold until the ratios are in your favor. Yeah, I mean, I think, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing physical, or even if you're just investing in in stocks, and you can actually, you don't have to invest in miners. There are companies that, for example, just hold gold and you can just invest in it almost like it's a spot gold ETF type thing. So there is lots of different options, and also with platinum, silver, a lot of different things. I'll see. Rory says in Edmonton, you can pan your own gold in the North Saskatchewan River. I think I want to do that. I actually would love to go pan gold. That would be so much fun. Cowboy says USA allows bovine growth hormone in their milk. Canada does not allow the use of bovine growth hormone because it transfers. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of different regulations. Basically, we have a lot stricter regulations in Canada. I would not drink. I don't want to say I would not drink American milk. I have when I was in America, but I drank American milk. But I would not. I would not go and buy American milk right now. I like all of our own safety rules here for milk. Holy banana bread! Check all your old jewelry. Let's see. There are spots around Devon, Alberta, too, for gold. Nice. Don't buy gold jewelry. Labor cost to spot price not in your favor. Let's see. Gold is in Battle River. All right. Oxymoron. Pan and Edmonton in the Saskatchewan River. That's actually kind of funny. Gold is everywhere. There's no shortage. Well, except Fort Knox. Red water. I wish I had a gold mine. I'd love to own a gold mine. Venezuela has lots of gold, but won't mine it. Yeah, they absolutely do. Mark says, Candace, I'm still looking at Trump's face in your screen. I'm getting PTSD. All right, you know what, Mark? I'll move to the next story. Let's just pump that out really quickly, if only to get rid of Trump's face. Only to get rid of Trump's face here for Mark. So we've been talking a little bit about people investing in Canada. So we've seen a lot of U.S. divestment. So in Q1 this year, Canadians have been pulling more money out of their U.S. investments. In fact, Canadians have been selling more U.S. securities at a pace that has not been seen since the pandemic. We have what is called, basically, we're calling it a statistically significant de-risking from the U.S. market. And it makes sense. It makes sense. So many of these new liberated funds are being, well, I would be investing in ETFs, but a lot of people are investing, putting them into GICs and also some money market funds as well. So the good thing about this is that it does show that even though we're pulling some American stuff, some of our American investments, the money's not leaving the market. So the money is still sticking around. We're not cashing out. We're basically maneuvering investments towards, well, more safety. There's a lot of chaos right now in the States, and a lot of people are like, let's look at something a little bit less risky. Well, heck, we were talking to Larry earlier, and he was mentioning how he was investing in some of these Canadian funds to, and other international funds to help make up for the money he's losing from the strength of the U.S. dollar plunging. So the question becomes why? Why are people moving away from U.S. stocks? We've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but some of the concerns, of course, are those tensions in the U.S. revolving around the politics, and more importantly, the fallout from Trump's trade and tariff policies. That's kind of a big thing. Another interesting part of it, though, too, is that many U.S. stocks have been getting a little bit overweighted. So in 2010, U.S. stocks made up about 48% of the MSCI World Index. Today, and this is the bloat I'm talking about, today they make up 72%. So there is a lot of bloat. Now, as a result of this bloat, a lot of Canadian portfolios could have easily become overweighted. So if you're looking diversification-wise, yeah, there's a lot of overweight in the U.S. because of that. And part of that sell-off is related to, well, getting more in tune with geographical diversification. And also, just to throw one more thing in the mix, we got that Buy Canada movement. So yeah, that's also taking that into consideration. There are some people who are just like, I don't want to invest in U.S. stocks anymore. Not with the U.S. treating us the way they are. Let's put our money at home. Nothing wrong with that. So that is, of course, another thing as well. All right. There we go. Mark, I got rid of Donald Trump for you. Chad says, his face and voice make me physically sick. Oh boy. Murica milk is why the NFL players are the world champions. There we go. That human growth hormone or bovine growth hormone. Scratch says the problem is, what is the temperature of the water in water? Rory, do love gold, hate gold water. All right, fair enough. Here's a question, I guess. Is the North Saskatchewan River fed by glaciers? Because that would tend to make it a lot colder. I know that the Bow when I was living in Calgary, that was a glacier-fed river. And you can normally tell because normally glacier-fed rivers have that distinctive green color to them. All right. Let's see. North Saskatchewan really isn't that cold on the prairies, though Edmonton turns more foothills and forest west of the city. And bears. Yeah, bears. Scratch. I consider myself as a princess when it comes out to swim in a river. I love my water hot. Nothing wrong with that. I personally love water to be room temperature. I'm a wimp when it comes to hot or cold. Athabasca Glacier feeds the North Saskatchewan. There we go. There we go. Glacier fed. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that. So I was thinking most rivers, I think, in Alberta are pretty much glacier fed. So Jay says, I hope U.S. companies would invest more, particularly downtown Winnipeg. There is not much to do other than watch a hockey game or going to the bars. Fair enough. Brown water at Edmonton. Uh-oh. I don't want to know what made that water brown. Maybe there was a lot of bears upstream. A lot of them. Oh boy. That could be interesting. All right, let's actually jump to our next story since I caught up again. So, small towns. We are starting to see a new phenomenon happen in Canada. So, we're going to look at one small town. It's called Fauquier Strickland. And they have decided, this is a small town in northern Ontario, they have actually decided to pack it up and no longer be a small town. They've decided to be no town at all. So they have and when I talk a small town, they pretty much have about a 400 people as their population, and they will be dissolving on August 1st. So what the heck's going on here? So the council for the town, they have decided to dissolve the town based on, well, guess what? On finances. The town is absolutely broke. In the last decade, they have managed to accumulate more than $2.5 million in operating deficits. They've depleted the town's coffers, and they continue to operate. To continue to operate, they basically would need to raise the property taxes of the people living in the town by about 300%. They're not willing to do that. They did try to secure a loan to see if they could keep things running. But the banks basically said, well, the data we need, you're not going to have until about 2026. So come back then. So yeah, that's just not going to happen. They cut their budget as deep as they could. They laid off their part-time employees and one of their full-time employees. Now, mind you, they only had 5 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. So now they're just down to 4 full-time employees. And even with 4 full-time employees, that makes them the biggest employer in the town. So I don't know what people do in this town, but they reached the point that their essential services were at risk. We're talking road maintenance, plowing, water and waste management, and fire protection. So all of the basics that you need. So they are dissolving. So by dissolving means the government of Ontario will be taking over everything. They'll have to step in directly. So they'll take over all responsibility, as well as all of the property taxes will be paid to them. You know, they'll be a little higher, but not 300% higher. And that community, of course, will lose all democratic local control. And it'll be a little more expensive for folks, but at least it's better than where it could have been. So and this is kind of this interesting thing. So right now, between 1966 and 2021, the proportion of Ontario's population living in rural areas fell to 17% from 37%. That's what's been happening. A lot of people are leaving the rural areas, heading to the bigger urban areas. A lot of it is a situation where young people don't stay. They leave. They go to the big cities. Immigrants don't want to go to the small cities. They want to stay in the big cities. And as that rural populations age, they slowly the population weeds down pretty fast. I will say, Nova Scotia. So I'm from Nova Scotia. Halifax, man, that population is just growing like crazy. So many people in Halifax. It's been a boom. It's a boom city in that way. However, you leave the greater metropolitan area of Halifax and holy banana bread, guys. All of the small towns are just dying. They're shrinking up. People are leaving the small towns, heading to the big city. And that's kind of a phenomenon that's happened in Nova Scotia. It's happening in Ontario. it's kind of one of these things. And now with a lot of the economic pressures between everything from tariffs, just to the, if we go into a recession, you're going to see a lot more of this happening. And this is just something I think to keep in mind. This is something to keep in mind for sure. All right, let's get caught up with you guys again. Let's see. Brown. Okay. Possum Lodge. The Red Green Show. I remember the Red Green Show. It's actually funny. You can find most of those online now. So if you ever have the urge for red green, if women don't find you handy, if they don't find you handsome, they should find you. Yeah, something like that. Keep the stick on the ice. That's the part I remember. Scratch. Anyone who wants a dip in a Quebec jewel river, just hit me up. You are all welcome. We'll talk money, right? There we go. Mark says, grew up in Winnipeg and thought I was a Southern Canadian, only 100 kilometers from the U.S. border. Then in grade 3, saw a map of Canada in social studies class. Now live in Kingston. Summer's 2 months longer. You gotta love Kingston. I did live. I lived briefly in Kingston when I was went to high school, Bay Ridge Secondary School in Kingston. But I remember Kingston pretty well. Let's see. I can see Doug Ford driving a fire truck. That would be. I can too. You put the image in my head, Bismarcky, and now I can say I can see it. Yep. Cities are where the money is. Yeah, it's true. It is absolutely true. Cowboy says, I can see Doug Ford eating donuts and a milkshake on a fire truck, Cowboy. He's eating donuts and a milkshake on the back of a fire truck. Let's pull this all together. You're not Canadian if you don't grow up watching the National Film of Canada videos in grade school. Oh God, yes. Oh yes, I remember those now. Yeah, and they used to be on the reel to reel. Oh boy. Now I feel really old. Thank you. The Log Driver's Waltz. Yeah. And a lot of the heritage minutes, like the old heritage minutes as well. I think there was one with the Log Driver's Waltz. I think that was its own commercial altogether. Not really a heritage minute, but yeah, gotta love it. Why don't they build seniors housing in these small towns? Yeah, that would be in one way. Only problem is though, right? The families of the seniors are probably like, we don't want to drive all the way out to Timbuk 3. We would, I think that's probably it. And they want to be probably closer to their families, also closer to medical, because, obviously people at their older years are going to have more health issues. So they might want to have that too. Let's see. Jay says, I've known people leaving Winnipeg to either Calgary or BC. I've been living here for 30 years and I noticed the change. Interesting. Is Winnipeg shrinking? I don't know. I've never heard any data on Winnipeg, but, how is the population going in Winnipeg? I'm kind of curious. Bismarcky says, have an in-house doctor and nurses, hire locals. It would free up housing in the big cities. Other than the fact it's really hard to get doctors and nurses to go out to the rural areas. That's that one thing that is kind of a little bit more on that difficult side. All right. Now we were talking about international students. I got a story about international students. So, of course, earlier this year, in an effort to get immigration under control, the government, they severely limited the number of spots available for international students in, our colleges and our universities. How fun. Unfortunately, this is a move that has resulted in some really serious impacts to the post-secondary landscape. So they are hurting. They are absolutely hurting. In fact, as a result of this, we are seeing one of the largest mass layoffs of, the sector has ever seen. So we're getting a lot of people who work at the universities, including professors, teachers, getting laid off. So new data is showing that over 10,000 faculty and staff members, and this is just in Ontario, have been laid off in the past year. So that's roughly a sixth of the sector's workforce that's been laid off. In addition to that, we have seen a lot of programs being canceled. So more than 600 college programs have been canceled or suspended. So yeah, these impacts, they're huge. Now, why? Why are they so huge? One thing that people, I don't think they realize, is that over 75% of the overall tuition fees taken come from international students. So It's kind of interesting. Now, before the limits, roughly 42% of the students at in almost every university in Canada were international students. They pay a lot more than Canadians pay. And that's where a lot of that money was coming from that runs the universities. So right now, right across the country, universities and colleges are facing huge, huge money problems from from low international student enrollments. And they can't exactly raise tuition prices for the domestic students because, as it is, I think tuition is too high for Canadians as it is. That is basically leaving schools with not a lot of options. And that's why we're seeing layoffs. We're seeing programs getting canceled. One great example, because this is not just Ontario, Camo Sun College over there in Victoria. So the international student limits, they're anticipated to create an $11 million shortfall for the college. And that, of course, is going to result in cuts and layoffs over there as well. Even if that post-secondary sector gets a boost in government funding, it's just not going to be able to replace what's become many schools' main revenue driver. You've basically turned off the taps. Many countries, it's interesting. This was a statistic I thought was interesting. Many countries actually pour more money via those international students into our education system, our post-secondary education system, than the Canadian government. In fact, India alone puts more money into our Canadian universities than the Canadian government does. Well, before the limit, obviously now that's kind of got kind of a big problem. So here's the question: should we be reevaluating these limits? At least maybe some exemptions for international students. I'm just thinking. So should we be doing it? That's the question. I'm sure you guys all have answers. All right. Whoops. Let's see here. Rory says Winnipeg's population is still 850,000. Calgary is approaching 1.7 million. Yeah, Calgary's been huge, 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 huge. They've been absolutely growing like crazy. Let's see. College kids waste all their money. Probably bad for local businesses. We had so many so-called colleges where the degree these foreign students get is not worth paper it is printed on. Okay, fair enough. Shady colleges, yeah. Well, that's the thing. If we change the limits, I would say make it. Why not have limits for specific colleges? You don't have to do it like all of these shady ones. Yeah, let's not increase the limits for them, but have something where the colleges can apply for an exemption, and if they are if they are a legitimate college, then yeah, maybe. Rory says time to implement Logan's Run laws in Canada. Oh boy. Get rich shorts. I think I almost said a bad word there. Get rich shorts is here. Late here, but hey, welcome. Cowboy, here chancellors at Canadian universities average $400,000 wage. I don't know. I don't know how much they make, but yeah, there are probably places they could cut. There's probably places they could cut some money, but at the same time, we know how business works. Those chancellors will fight tooth and nail not to cut that money. So, it's something we need to think about. I honestly don't know the answer. Scratch says, I lived in Laval for all of my life, and the population didn't move that much. The mayor expects a 100K increase in population in the next 10 years, from a population of 300K to 400 in the last 40 years. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. One of the interesting things too, I know with some of the current limits on immigration, one of the things that they're giving people preference with is if you speak French. So if you speak French, that will give you a better chance of being of immigrating into Canada. Now, if you are a French speaker, well, Montreal might be a place you want to go. If I was fluently bilingual, I would probably want to live in Montreal. It's one of my favorite cities in Canada. I do love Montreal a lot. Let's see here. Get Rich says, has anyone traded Bitcoin and other coins using platforms? I mean, not through Wealthsimple. Things like Coinbase. Is it better to purchase those directly from tax perspective? I mean, um, it really depends on what you're doing, right? So, uh, yeah, you've got things like Coinbase, Kraken. Of course, here in Canada, we got Shake Pay and you got Wealthsimple as well. If you're just buying and you're going to hold, so if you're buying and holding and you're not planning on using a hardware wallet, I think they're all fine. I think they're all fine. I would be a little bit leery of some of the bigger ones, especially ones outside of Canada. So things, for example, Kraken. I love Kraken, but there have been some of the big ones that have, they have failed. They have run into situations. At least when you're looking at something like ShakePay or Wealthsimple, you're covered under some of the Canadian laws, and you know that you've got some insurance there. So you're a lot. I would feel a lot safer now. For the purists are going to be like, not your keys, not your crypto. So if that's the route you're going, if you want to hold them yourself in a hardware wallet, then honestly, it probably would be whichever one is the most convenient because you're just going to buy it and then transfer it to your wallet's address. So that's another option as well, or nowadays you can also get. I mean, I look at it this way: if you're just going to hold Bitcoin, another option as well is a spot Bitcoin ETF. I mean, we got so many of them out there available now. We got and there's other options too if you want other crypto, but there's a lot of options for sure. All right. Lord Ostrich. All hail, Lord Ostrich. It's used as a backdoor for PR. How about no limit if that element is restricted somehow? Interesting. It's an interesting idea for sure. Let's see. Jay says Winnipeg is not a cheap city to live anymore. And factor that with high crime, people would leave for better opportunities and especially milder weather. Yeah. I mean, it's cold. It is cold in Winnipeg in the winter. Well, most of the prairies. The exception being maybe Calgary. Now, Calgary has its fair share of cold, but you get the Chinooks. The Chinooks at least give you every so often you get a little bit of a kind of a break from winter. I know when I used to live in Calgary. Sometimes I'll tell you this funny story. I used to be a manager in a toy store, and I was working downtown, and I had to go out to our head office. I had to go there. So I got on the C train. And when I got on the C train, it was about minus 30. It was roughly minus 30. And 20 minutes later on the C train, while I was on it, a Chinook blew in. So when I got off the C train at the next stop, it was about +3, +4, something like that. It was just amazing. I couldn't believe how fast it changed. But yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Rory says, with a reduction in immigration, how does that affect residential REITs? Well, that's a great question. So that's one of the things. So when we were expecting, because normally REITs do really well with rate cuts, and we started to see that until along came Trudeau and he put all of the kibosh on immigration, and that kind of killed all of the momentum that we were seeing in REITs. So REITs kind of stumbled for a bit, but now they're picked back up again, and that's a good thing. So I think we're at a point now that that's kind of been factored in already, and it's kind of, we're kind of moving beyond that at this point. But yeah, no, it did have a role. It did certainly have a role. Now, if we can get our social stuff in order, and if we can get to the point that we can turn immigration back on again a little bit more, then yeah, we could get to a point where that could then get pushed into REITs, and that could be a little bit of a spike. But I don't think that's going to happen this year. We'll have to sort of see how this all goes. Mark says, hey, when are we going to have a community mountain finance conference in Ottawa? That'd be fun, wouldn't it? That'd be a lot of fun. And I know that there's a few of you guys from Ottawa. We got Stittsville in here, and we got lots of you guys from Montreal, Kingston, obviously, Mark. So yeah, maybe we'll have to look at something. We'll have to look at something for sure. I really, really was hoping that Lawson was going to be able to pull off one of these meetings here in Ottawa. So this year it looks like they're still going Toronto and Montreal, but I want to see one in Ottawa. I'm going to have to, you know what, guys? I got Brandon Beaver here on Thursday. I might just have to push the Ottawa on him. We'll see how that goes. All right. People speak Arabic. Canada needs to wake up soon if we don't want the Geneva Convention to appear again. We are a few who won't step down. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. Gosh, I think Arabic is becoming a big language in a lot of places. That Chinese, Arabic, Punjabi, I think is another big one. It's actually funny. Like my videos now, you can listen to them in almost a lot of different languages. I actually sat down one night and I just opened up one of my videos and I put on the Japanese. And there's like some sounds like he's a samurai warrior who's translating me, and I was just like, oh my god, that is so funny. But yeah, it is there. It is kind of interesting, and you guys will love this. So I get these spam messages every so often in the comments. I get this spam message where somebody's like, "Oh, I've been dealing with John Doe, and he's made me a bunch of money. You got to connect with him. You can find him on Telegram. And it's obviously they're trying to trick you into going to it." Well, I got the first one of those in French the other day. It was funny. I started to read it. I was like, okay, all right. Well, I then threw it in the translator. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe it's one of them spam messages. I can't believe it. So I had to delete it. But I was excited too, because when I get a message in another language, so anybody, like, let's say I had this for one person. They came by the channel about a year ago. They left a reply in Portuguese. So I translated it and I crafted my answer and translated it back to Portuguese. And I was like, yeah, I love it. I'll do it. Just because it's fun. It's kind of fun. All right, Cowboy. Only way to get in Quebec is being able to speak French. Quebec has control on the immigration system for their province. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you hear a lot of stuff in the. I've heard a lot of stuff in the news lately about the language police over in Quebec. But it's. I mean, I understand. I mean, there's it's probably a bit of a balancing act to try to keep French relevant when they're being bombarded by English left, right, and center. I absolutely understand it, but I think as well there has to be a little bit of adaptability. Because I've seen a few things where I've questioned things. Like I know there was a shop owner that had, all of their signage was right. Their Facebook page was in French. Pretty much the only thing that wasn't in French was their Instagram, because that's where they found that for some reason their English customers were the only ones who really went to Instagram. So they did that in English for them. And then one person apparently, one person on the French side found out that they had an English Instagram, and they let the language police know. And the language police was like, no, you can't have that. So although they probably told them in French, to be fair. All right. Scratch says, speak Arabic, Cowboy, and we are in, or you are in, there we go. Along Came Polly. Wasn't that a movie with the girl who played Rachel from Friends? Maybe I'm wrong. That's what popped into my head. Let's see. RCMP won't get involved in Antifa, but they put in jail 4 guys from the army who wanted to train civilians. Oh boy, I don't know anything about that, but Paul says, till going, just got here. Still go. I know, believe it or not, Paul, I'm not finished the news yet. I got to jump on the news here in a moment, though. Cowboy, REITs are not my first choice. The real estate market is too wobbly. Fair enough. And and there's a lot of different options. That's a beautiful thing about investing nowadays, is that you can do really well and you can ignore whole sectors if you really want to. There's a lot of versatility, I think, to how you can structure a very well diversified portfolio with ignoring something like, for example, if you want to ignore real estate, you can, or if you want to ignore crypto, you can, or commodities, you can, or heck, even if you just didn't want energy in there, you can still do it. It's harder though, but you can still do it. Bismarcky says Mandarin is big in Toronto, and I'm talking about the all-you-can-eat buffet. Okay. Let's see. Japanese mountain finance sounds fantastic. I know. I know. It's like, you know, what I really want, and this is what YouTube is working towards. They're not there yet. Right now, it's like they give you a voice. It sounds nothing like you, um, but eventually, their AI is supposed to take your voice and put your voice in Japanese, or French, or Spanish, or Italian, or Russian. I mean, or Ukrainian. Let's see. All right, look at Axon in the U.S. AI company. Axon. Oh boy. Well, let's pull that up here. All right. AXON. Here we go. Oh, wow, look at the price on it. 729 USD. All right. Now this is a big company. I could pull it up in Yahoo, but I think for a big company like this, we'll be fine. Let's take a look here. Yeah, look at this. This is their 3-year chart right here. So yeah, 3 years ago they were about 3 years ago they were about $108. So they have done really, really well. Let's see here. Do they have a dividend? It doesn't look like it. They've got good earnings per share. I'm kind of curious to know what their. Here we go. Let's take a look here. Debt to equity 80%. Okay, that's not too bad. Return on equity 15.17, 6.82 on the return on assets. Okay, yeah, it looks interesting. I mean, AI is going to continue to get bigger. In fact, Paul, since we got there, let's talk a tiny bit about AI for the moment. Paul brought it up, so we're going to talk about AI here for a moment. In particular, we'll talk a tiny bit about Nvidia. See how I worked that in? So this week, guys, this is kind of big. Nvidia became the first company globally to, well, I was going to say to hit the $4 trillion club, but I'm going to say to form, because they're the first to form the $4 trillion club. So on Wednesday, they broke that $4 billion valuation. And when I was putting this video together there on Friday, they were sitting at 4.066 trillion. So why the heck? What's going on? Why is Nvidia surging again? Well, Paul was talking about AI, and that's what we're talking about. It's all about AI dominance. So Nvidia's high performance GPUs, they're forming they're forming the backbone of our global AI boom. They are powering everything from large language models to cloud data centers. They are quite literally everywhere. AI is, without much doubt, they're the future of technology, and this is really, really boding well for their stock price, of course. So this year, they're up 22% year to date, and there is an index. It's called the SOX Semiconductor Index. That's only up 15%, so they're absolutely demolishing the semiconductor index. Now, this pump, here's the interesting thing. If you would have picked up some Nvidia on Liberation Day, you would have been looking at a 74% return on that investment. Holy banana bread. Now, this valuation, this current valuation of Nvidia, it means that they are making up 7.3% of the S&P 500 all by themselves. Now, Apple is also up there as well. Apple's sitting at 7%. And just to be fair, Microsoft is sitting at 6%. But Nvidia is top dog for sure. Now, another little interesting fact is, just to give you a general idea how big this is. If you were to take the Canadian and the Mexican stock markets and combine them all together, Nvidia is bigger than the whole thing. In fact, they're also bigger than the UK market. Oh boy. Now, guys, coming up in August, and you guys know I love these days, their next earnings are going to be on August 27th. That's always a Wednesday, so we'll have a market close that day. I can't wait to see what's going to happen because investors are starting to get excited again. Now, do we have any party poopers out there? Well, some people are saying AMD is getting set to break, to rain on Nvidia's parade. They're pumping out cheaper processors. So how can they not? Well, here's the thing. cheap is not always the best. Nvidia, they have the CUDA software ecosystem. It's absolutely unrivaled, and it's currently it's basically the de facto standard for AI. So they've got their claws very deep into the whole AI ecosystem. And like I said, with Nvidia, it's not just GPUs. They sell the entire platform. So we're talking specialized networking. So NVLink, Affinibrand from their Mellanox acquisition, server design, so DGX systems, and of course the software. So we talked about CUDA. There's also Cudden and TensorRT. All right, now AMD is not a threat right now, but on a longer time scale, AMD could become a threat. But to do so, they need to keep improving their software support. And at this point, they might want to cater to companies that do not want to get locked into the Nvidia ecosystem. So that's kind of where their place is at the moment. So what can I say? And guys, we are so close to the end of the news. We knew the oil was coming. Let's just quickly get this out of the way. And then it's all you guys. It's all you guys. I'm going to have a drink here first. So this week, the International Energy Agency, so that's the IEA, they're claiming that the oil market may be tighter. They're saying it may be tighter than we think it is, despite most of the data which has been pointing to an oil surplus. So the IEA, they're expecting oil supply. This is on paper. On paper, they're expecting oil supply to grow by 2.1 million barrels per day this year, which is up from 300,000 barrels per day in their last forecast. At the same time, they're forecasting demand of 700,000 barrels per day, which, well, it's one of the slowest paces we've seen since 2009, if we exclude the pandemic. Because obviously, at one point during the pandemic, the price of oil was negative. So what can we say? But yeah, looking at that data, basic math says, yeah, this is a surplus. We're 2.1 being produced, 700,000 being used. So yeah, lots of oil, right? Well, is the math right? That's one of the questions that they're asking. And is the forecasting model, is it spot on, or is there a significant amount of wiggle room in it? Because despite that surplus, we're seeing something interesting. Refineries are ramping up processing in response to demand that's been created by things like, well, summer travel has really seen a spike in demand, as well as, well, all that electricity needed to power the air conditioning has really been creating a good amount of supply. Now, refinery crude runs, they're actually predicted to rise by 3.7 million barrels per day from May to August. So, and a lot of that is, of course, to meet some of these summer demands. Fantastic. Now, crude burning for power, here's the interesting thing. So they initially said that, demand was about 700,000 barrels per day. Well, the crude burning for power alone right now, it has doubled to about 900 barrels per day. So 900,000. That's just not 900 per se. So this is really starting to show. The market is really showing signals of some serious tightness in oil. This is kind of interesting. Oil futures, they're in sort of a, they're showing tightness as well. We're seeing some steep backwardation, meaning that oil for immediate delivery is priced higher than later contracts, which is a classic sign of a tight market. Refining markets are strong, meaning that refineries are still making good money processing crude. So they're buying actively. So there hasn't really been a huge drop in the price of oil, despite, the price is down right now on the WTI, but it's not as bad as it should be if we had the surplus that everybody thinks that we have. Now, despite the OPEC, so OPEC has decided to increase supply inventories. The inventories themselves are not building up. Even though OPEC is increasing supply, basically it means the market's thirsty for barrels of oil. So the oil's going somewhere. Somebody's using it. Interestingly enough, even with OPEC's announcement of more supply, which we got last week, oil still rose in response. It didn't actually fall, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, OPEC, they do disagree with the IEA model, and they have said that they see demand closer to 1.3 million barrels per day. So that's more in line with what we're actually seeing. So even with a technical surplus on paper, strong refinery demand, hot weather power needs, and tight spot market pricing, all suggesting the market, they're all suggesting a market that is much tighter right now than anybody's expecting. So that could be good for those of you in the energy stocks for sure. This could keep oil supported through the summer travel season, even with trade tensions and talk of slowing demand growth. So oil may not be as in bad a shape as we thought. And I know last week we're saying the opposite. The news was saying the opposite last week, but this has been a really interesting thing. Now, before I just close up on the news here, I do want to point out this week coming up on Tuesday, July 15th, we got the CPI up here in Canada. In the United States, on Tuesday, they got the CPI as well. And on Wednesday, they got the PPI. And on Thursday, they're dropping their retail sales. So we're going to get a good chance to see a lot of what's going on down there in that U.S. economy. All right, guys, that's the news. The news is done. Now it's just me and you guys. Let's get back here. 20 replies underneath the spam messages all point to one savior. I know. I delete them as fast as I can find them, but I have noticed as well, and this is an interesting one. I have noticed that sometimes they will start that thread as a reply to somebody else. So a legitimate person will have a real message, and then they'll throw in a reply to it, and then all of the replies will start to pile on that reply. I've caught that happening. So I've deleted at least, I think, 2. I think I've seen that happen twice. Send me 1 Bitcoin and I'll send you 2 back. Ooh, really? I trust you. I trust you, Larry. Okay. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. Let's see. Rory says, must find a bit of coin, looks in swear jar. There we go. Could be that moment, guys. Look at silver charts. Uh-oh, is silver going again? Let's take a gander here. Let's head on over here. All right, silver. Back over here. Oh, look at this. Yeah, silver went up a little bit. We had a bit of a spike. We're in a green candle. Interesting. Paul is on a work break. Lunch 3:03 p.m. here. Yeah, this show is going a little longer than normal. It took forever to get through the news, but you know what? I don't mind. Mark says, I stay away from REITs and split shares. Just 7 ETFs, 700K. But funny, when I break down underlying holdings, I hold a lot of REITs. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ETFs that you invest in, Mark, they will have exposure. Like a lot of them are very well diversified, which is one of the reasons you're holding them. But yeah, they will absolutely have some REITs for sure. We got Kevin in the house. Bingo. All right. I'll have to check your card, Kevin. I'm going to have to check your card. Lord Ostrich. All hail Lord Ostrich. I want to say that every time I say Lord Ostrich, I think I'm going to say all hail Lord Ostrich. It comes naturally. Let's see. I got here a bit late, so sorry if you've mentioned it, but Canada shipped its first LNG cargo to Asia the last few days. Good time to get in. Canada moving away from the U.S. dependence. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have, and we're going to have a lot more. Actually, last weekend, we did cover that on the news. But yeah, I believe it was from Kitimat, BC. They have the first one going. And once that gets up to full steam, we're going to have a lot of natural gas going to Asia. And yeah, I mean, the U.S. has to be looking there. Maybe not Trump. Trump is kind of in his own world, but I'm sure there's a lot of officials, maybe within the energy sector, they're looking at it and saying, well, look at that oil. Look at that natural gas. We're going to lose a lot of that, guys. So yeah, I'm all for it. You know what? The more we can diversify Canadian exports, the better. Especially over the next 3.5 years. Paul says, I swapped out Nvidia for Axon on my 5-stock rotation model by Invest Answers that triggered a buy signal on Axon on Friday. Looking at doing a small swap on Monday into Axon. Yeah, it's been working for you, Paul. You've been doing really well. I like what you've been doing. Cowboys, so far had you try get me into Bitcoin twice. Scammers love to pretend to be you, except they can't spell your name and their joining date is days old. They are persistent. Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably over there on the Discord. I am on the Discord. I'm banning Mountain Finance with two eyes. I even tried one day. I probably should change my profile picture over there again. I'll change my profile picture within a day. All of their profile pictures are changed. It's amazing. But this is what I say, guys. If you're on Discord, just send me a friend request. Send me a friend request. I will say okay. That way, there, if you get a message from me who's not your friend, you know it's a scammer. Oh, and feel free if you want to get the mean words out, if you want to break those out and throw them at them, oh please do. I have no sympathy for scammers at all. Paul says 5 stock rotation model for last 3 buy signals have gone up 10% each in new to oldest. So Tesla, Palantir, HIMS, and MicroStrategy or Strategy. Very cool. Long session. I know. We're at oh my God, we're almost at 2.5 hours, guys. Can you ever get a better time to be a contrarian? Wish you all the best, guys. I had a good time and I will be back. Well, I look forward. And thank you as well, Scratch. You had that super that you dropped a little bit earlier. I really appreciate that. Michael says, how far can HIMS fall since bad news in the past month? Well, that we'll have to see. I do like HIMS, though. I do like HIMS. I will give them that. Let's see. Poor countries are advancing, need more oil. Yeah, absolutely. How about Chewy? CHWY. Good question. I don't know if I'm familiar with that one, Michael. Let me actually. Oh yeah. Oh, I was going to pull it up here. All right, let me pull this up here. What is it? CHYW. Oh, it helps if I put in a C. CHWY. There we go. Chewy Incorporated. All right, let's take a look here. $37.99. What do they do? This is my first question. When I run into a brand new stock, I want to know what they do. So let's see. E-commerce pet care retailer. I like that. I like pets. They generate 8.9 million in sales across food, pet, treats, and goods, and pharmaceutical. All right, cool. All right, pets. I'm pro pet. Very pro pet. I mean, I got 3 cats, so of course I'm pro pet. All right, let's though take a gander here. I want to take a look and see. All right. So lately they've been doing better lately. I like that. I do like that. All right. I want to go out a little bit further and see. Let's go all the way up to the 10-year. All right. So yeah, they have this big. Now this here, all of this up here, that's all that extra money that was in the market. So I tend to ignore stuff like this a little bit, but yeah, they've had their struggles for sure. All right. Let's take a gander here at. All right, now their debt is a little high. We've got 133% debt to equity ratio. So I want to know what they're doing. Why do they have so much debt? Are they expanding? What's going on? And this return on equity seems to be suspiciously high too, 76.46. If it's legit, I'm very happy at that. But it could be skewed a little bit with this debt. Maybe I would want to go a bit deeper into Chewy, but I do overall like the idea of the company. I think there's some potential there, but I would be a little more careful, and I would want to do a lot more homework on them before I could get into something like that. Paul says, let's see, Nvidia hasn't had a pullback since the $88. Won a few months ago, so no entry point for Nvidia. Yeah, I mean, Nvidia's been doing really well lately, so. But you know what? Here's the thing. We're kind of at this point where there's a lot of things about to happen within the AI sector. For example, ChatGPT 5 is expected probably by the fall. This could be a good time for Nvidia. I really would like to hear while their earnings call. I really would like to listen to this one when that comes out in August, because I think that's going to be really interesting. Let's see. And Seoul U has a bit more volume than the last few days. Less no volume days. Yeah. Now, mind you, because that one is pegged to the US dollar, there will be a smaller volume. If you had the one pegged to the Canadian dollar, you would have a bit more volume, of course. But, sometimes it's nice to not have to deal with, with currency that way. Jay says Nvidia screwed consumers with their graphics card division, over promising but under delivering considering the price. AMD will take that over if they don't smarten up. Maybe. That is a possibility. But here's the thing: most of their money right now, Nvidia is getting from everything, all of the AI stuff. So the actual graphics part, I don't think it's that big of a. I don't think they're making as much money on that as they are on the AI stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, let's see here. But yeah, I still say they shouldn't. They shouldn't. They shouldn't let that slide. Paul says, got to go back to work. We'll watch rest later. All right, take care, Paul. Cowboy, buying oil, the more these idiots say it's not going to be relevant, their alternatives don't exist. Let's say gold is the leader. This indicator is a year or two ahead of oil. Time to be long on oil. Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on gold. I'm definitely huge on gold, and I'm huge on oil. I think they're both going to do very, very well. All right. Vic says, thanks, CM. And Paul says, Bitcoin hit 119,267 earlier today. Monday should be interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Canada just needs more refinery capacity. Should have started that 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Do not redeem. I love it. Okay, now going back to work, the 5 rotation works by selling a set percentage, say 20% of 4 stocks to buy the 5th stock, like capturing the profit. Oh, nice. Let's see, 2 hours and still going strong. Nice. I know this is turning into one of the longer ones. I say personally believe the only thing to build south of Hardisty is refineries ship finished products, not raw materials. We need more value. Add here at home. No, absolutely. I think we should be refining everything. We really, really should. And it's actually interesting. I was watching an interview the other day with Pierre Polyev, and he was he was being interviewed. I think it was sometime after the stampede, but he was basically saying that he wants to work with the government. He wants to work with the current government. Get some teams together. Let's work together. Let's get this all fixed. I liked hearing that. I really did like hearing that because when you have a minority government, I'm always concerned, if everybody's just trying to fell the government, and it looks like the Conservatives are not even thinking about that at this point. The goal right now, I think, is, hey, let us in, let us help, let us work together, let's get some stuff done. I would love to see that. I hope Carney takes him up on some of these offers. Rory says, I like Hardisty, been there quite a few times with the CPR. Nice. All right, guys, we are getting close to the end. It's like 2.5 hours. So if you got your last minute questions, get them on in. Type fast, because I'm getting to that point where I'm like, it's getting hot up here with all these lights on. So, is bird BDT still the word? It is. In fact, the video coming out, if you're a channel member, you can watch it tomorrow. But if you're not a channel member, you'll be able to watch it on Tuesday. I'm going to look at 5, well, technically 6. There's a bonus stock in there, but I'm going to look at the channel favorites. Those stocks that people are always asking about because I've been like a big fan of. Obviously, Bird is probably one of them. I'm going to look at all of them. And, excuse me. Whew. Iced coffee burp. Gonna look at all of them tomorrow or Tuesday, depending on when you get to see the video. And yeah, I'll answer that question in there. Is bird still the word? I just recently did a deep dive on bird and said that they were. So spoiler alert, probably. All right, cool. Funny, I own more shares of CN. Yeah, I mean, I like both CN and CNR. I think they're both really, really good. Now, I see they each have their individual advantages. So CNR, their advantages is they have access to the Canadian North, to a lot of our minerals. So they're essential in that part of our backbone, and that's going to be really big for them as we start opening up more and more minerals. Now, CP, they've got access to Mexico. They got the largest contiguous railroad that goes straight from Canada through the U.S. right down to Mexico. Now, CN CN does get as far as the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to call it the Gulf of Mexico. Um, or all right, fine, Gulf of America if you prefer, but that's where it goes to. So I think they're both going to be fine. Now, I think long term, I think CNR probably is the better investment. Now, this is opinion, but I think in the short to midterm, CP probably will be your better returns. But we'll have to see. Cowboy says, do you still like ENS? So ENS, it's a split core. They only hold Enbridge. And let's actually pull them up here. Oh, I do still have it up. Okay. Now ENS, I have liked. This is one of the few split cores that I have been a fan of. All right, let's just eek. I'm going to pull up their 3-year, and you can see. I mean, here's the thing. You got to look at this here. I'm a fan of it. I'm not here, though, for growth. I'm not here for growth. I'm here for one thing. I'm here for income, and I'll show you why. You got a 11.159% dividend. It's it's a monthly dividend. It's 13 cents a share. So this has always, for me, been a growth one. But you will get, from time to time, I'll pull up here, you will get these growth. You will get some big growth spikes. So it's kind of one of these ones that, I kind of look at it as this being stable going across here, like, going across here. And then when I do get these moments down here, that to me is probably a time that you can average down a little bit. But I do like them. I like Enbridge as well. I'll put that out there. But yeah, for split cores, this is not a bad one. ENS. Rory says, always a bottleneck for trains in Chicago. Does not surprise me. Enbridge and Gibson's. Gibson, are they holding Gibsons now? I did not. If they are, I did not know that. I thought they were just Enbridge. Let's see, Enbridge. Well, this here just says Enbridge, but I'll have to look into that. If they're holding Gibsons too, that's interesting. I did not know that. Let's see. CEO at Gibson's came over from Superior Propane, didn't he? I remember reading something like that. I can't swear on it though, but I do remember hearing something like that. So maybe that's kind of cool. All right, guys. Before we go, I just want to point out Thursday we got a special live stream 4 p.m. Eastern. It's This Week Conversations. That's going to be 1 hour with Brandon Beavis. So Brandon Beavis will be over here for an hour. We'll have a good old conversation. And you guys feel free to get in there and ask questions and stuff. All of that fun stuff. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Before then, we will have a market close on Wednesday. So we do have that live stream as well Wednesday. Once again, that one starts at 3:45 Eastern. So just pretty much 15 minutes before the market closes, we'll have some fun. And we'll see what things Trump has brought up for us to talk about on that one. And hopefully we get a green market. I'd like to see a green market. We'll have to see. Yeah. And of course, a video coming out Tuesday. We're going to look at all of the channel favorites once again. And and it's going to be a great week. I'm looking forward to it. So guys, thank you very much for coming out, spending 2.5 hours with me. We will see you guys again on Wednesday. I can't wait. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. And wait a minute. I gotta be big. I don't want to say goodbye while I'm small. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys all again very soon. Bye-bye.